So doing the cleaning. The cleaning method is a valuable tool with many practical applications. It helps us to go beyond our personal limits and prevents us from getting trapped in life's overwhelming complexities. There are so many occasions when the cleaning has actually saved me from making big mistakes in life. Just a few minutes of cleaning allows for so much clarity and wisdom to dawn. So it helps us in avoiding big mistakes and it gives us a lot of clarity and wisdom. I think that the cleaning method is possibly the most important of all the heartfulness practices, said Daji. Charji used to say that meditating without cleaning is like having a fancy car that gets stuck in the mud. A supercar won't do you much good without a decent road. No matter how much you meditate, you won't get very far without cleaning. Because the beautiful inner state that you create will remain covered by so many layers of impurities. Nevertheless, we should never think ourselves to be impure or unclean. With the cleaning method, we move towards purity without even thinking of ourselves to be impure. This is very important. In the cleaning method, we never think ourselves as impure or complex. Without paying attention to it, we actually become pure and we become simple. We move towards simplicity without even thinking ourselves to be complex. Beneath our samskaras, we are already pure and simple. So please remember. So when people think that I have become very complex, then that's not the right way of thinking about the impurities and complexities. Impurities never touch the soul, you see. It only obscures it and prevents its divine rays from illuminating our consciousness. Please underline this. It obscures it and prevents the divine rays from illuminating our consciousness. When that is the case, our awareness also diminishes. We become less cognizant. We only have to remove some impurities and complexities, and our natural state of purity and simplicity begins to emerge. So we should just do the cleaning as a matter of routine. I said, correct. Do it in the same spirit as you take a bath or a shower. It's a habit of good hygiene. To bathe or brush yourself is a matter of outer hygiene. To clean is your inner hygiene. It makes your consciousness crystal clear. When you say impurities, you mean samskaras, right? I asked. Daji said yes. But this is all within the realm of theory and philosophy. When you actually do the cleaning, you feel so light afterwards that you feel so fresh. It's a tangible feeling. So we feel light and fresh after the cleaning. Now it does not matter whether you actually believe in samskaras or not. It hardly matters. That feeling motivates you regardless of whether you are convinced by the theory of samskaras or not. I think that the feeling of lightness is the reason that why most people use this method. They feel a difference in themselves, which they appreciate. Over time, we also find changes in ourselves. Many habits and tendencies simply tend to fall off. Sometimes you don't even notice that they are gone. Then sometimes say, what happened to you, man? Then somebody says, what happened to you, man? You used to be so irritated all the time. Oh, really? You say, you don't even remember it. Normally, we perform the cleaning for about 15 to 30 minutes in the evening. However, there are times when we shouldn't wait till the end of the day. Perhaps you get into an argument and you see something that leaves you shaken. In those cases, just sit down and clean immediately, even for 5 minutes. See, if you spilled ketchup all over your shirt at lunchtime, would you wait till in the evening to clean it or to change your clothes? You wouldn't. It's very simple thing. Don't carry around the stain on your consciousness at all day. Don't carry that heavy burden unnecessarily. Take care of it immediately. If something extreme happens and you feel very disturbed, contact a heartfulness trainer and request a sitting. They will meditate along with you, aiding you with yogic transmission. When you take a sitting with the trainer, they perform cleaning on you as we meditate. So the abhyasi is supposed to meditate, the preceptor is going to do the cleaning. The cleaning we receive from the trainer is a deeper cleaning than what we can actually achieve during our daily practice. When receiving a sitting, we simply meditate and let the trainer do their work. We do not use the cleaning method at that time because the trainer is already doing it on our behalf. So when you come for sitting, you don't use the cleaning method. You only try to do meditation. The trainer is doing the cleaning part. But when we use the cleaning method on our own, we avoid meditating at that time. We just do the cleaning as per the method. But there are a lot of people who start with cleaning and within 5-10 minutes they lapse into meditation. So a lot of people go do it like this. How can we be sure that we are cleaning rather than meditating? I asked. So now the difference between meditation and cleaning, Daji is explaining. In meditation, you can just let yourself relax deeper and deeper. So you are just letting yourself relax. In other words, you are being passive. But cleaning is an active process. Second, in meditation, we don't use the willpower. We just sit with the sankalpa. That's it. But in cleaning, we use our willpower. In meditation, we don't use imagination. In cleaning, we use the imagination. In meditation, we bring our attention to the heart. In cleaning, we bring our attention to the back. So these are all the differences that you feel, the difference between meditation and cleaning. So sometimes they might ask this question also. In cleaning, we use the will to throw everything out so that when we sit for cleaning, we remain alert. But that alertness and awareness should be there even in meditation. Now, but the best thing is to avoid creating impressions in the first place. Daji said with the laugh. Certain situations are bound to create some scars. An argument, for example, before the argument starts, you already know what is going to happen. You know that you won't like the other person, what the other person says. That is when you need awareness. Before the difficult concentration, even conversation even begins, inoculate yourself with compassion and understanding towards the other person. But you also have to understand yourself. If you know how you are likely to react, so that you can put a check on yourself at that time. Normally, we think that cleaning is curative in nature. You use it to clean yourself and normalize your inner state. But cleaning can also be preventative. Once in the 80s, I was working in my pharmacy in New York. At that time, there was an intern working with us who was a newly married man. He had recently started meditation too. One of his duties was to deliver medicines to nursing homes and hospitals, where he would meet nurses who would then distribute the medicines to the patients. One day he came back with a red face. Kamlesh, I'm in big trouble, he said. What happened? I asked. This nurse is after me. She's gorgeous. She's so beautiful. My heart is pumping. But I am married. I should not even be thinking about it. But I want to meet her. See, she has given me the key of her apartment also. I'm supposed to see her tonight. I said, I'm sorry, I cannot help you. Too many things were going on at that time, you see. But then I had an idea. Let's write a letter to Charity. By the time I write the letter and it comes back, it will be too late. She is expecting me tonight. At that time, the fax machine was a new thing, so I told him, you write the letter, we will fax it to him. It was daytime in the New Era. So in India, when Charity was at that time, it was middle of the night. However, he would sleep with the fax machine right next to his bed. So this intern wrote a letter, please help me, I am not able to resist this. Almost instantly, the reply came back, sit down and do the cleaning for 5 minutes. Then refer to your heart. So I said, go to the office and do it there. So he went, finished his cleaning and came back. Kamlesh, I should not have written that letter. I asked him, why not? He said, now the desire is gone and I will have to miss this opportunity. See, you see, when we clean, desires get weakened and clarity dawns. Please underline this. When we clean, desires get weakened and clarity dawns. If you had met with that young lady, he would likely have formed strong impressions and ended up feeling guilty. So cleaning is also preventative. Now suppose you have had a stressful day at work. By the time you arrive home, you are already in a reactive state. Maybe your wife also had a tough day. She is also reactive. What do you think is going to happen when you come home? Fireworks. So the best thing to do is clean the baggage away. Do it as soon as you reach home and your interactions will be more peaceful and more loving. You know those children's toys, the tops? When a top spins on its axis, it's not easy to knock it over. You can only knock it down when it's already unbalanced, when it's already wobbling on its axis. More often, this is our condition when we come home in the evening. We are already wobbling on our axis. So before we have a chance to react, we stabilize ourselves by doing the cleaning. Otherwise, it's like returning home sweating from the gym and immediately hugging your family. No matter how much they love you, they would rather prefer you to take a shower first. After all, after you do your cleaning, you are fit to interact with others, both for your sake and for others. You see, you have to be careful with others. My actions and attitudes should not create impressions in other people. Please underline this. My actions and attitudes should not create impressions in other people. This is especially true if they don't have a method by which they remove samskaras. We have a method of cleaning ourselves. If we create a samskara, we can remove it. That isn't true for others. If they form an impression, they don't have an easy way of removing it. So we should be careful. So our actions and attitudes should not make other people form samskaras. We can even help others simply by doing our own cleaning. Many of our samskaras are called as collective samskaras. For instance, family members often display common tendencies and traits. These are the result of the common shared samskaras. Now, by cleaning that particular samskara from yourself, you weaken it in others too. Removing your own part of a collective samskara is like removing the bottom layer of a mountain. Eventually, the entire formation will crumble and collapse. So, when we clean ourselves, we also clean others. Daji said, but indirectly. Now, you imagine if millions of people did cleaning, you should start to witness a very rapid change in the world. So I'm not going to focus on the cleaning method that is given now in the next few pages that you can read yourself. We can go to the prayer chapter. But before we go to prayer, any questions you can ask. And most of the cleaning, if they ask about cleaning method, what they would expect as an answer is from the 9-page document. They are not going to look for cleaning method from this book or that book. Because we have had these problems in the past. People will write cleaning from this book or that book and say we wrote from this book. So what they have done is they have circulated this 9-page document and they expect you to answer from the 9-page document. As far as the cleaning or point A meditation, point B cleaning, all those things. So just keep that in mind. So thoroughly be clear and concise with the 9-page document. You don't need to by heart it, but you need to write all the main points which are there in the 9-page document. They will be part of your closed book exam. Okay. So we'll pause here for a few minutes. Any questions we can take?
Brother, I had a question which I had asked a couple of days back that when Mabhyasi asked that why just only we do cleaning, imagine that the smoke is going from the top of the head till tailbone and not whole body. I was not able to answer that, so I want to ask you, brother, if you can answer.
See, there are other methods of cleaning which the preceptors are to do. That's called as a limb cleaning method. In limb cleaning method, we actually clean all the samskaras through the limbs. Now, it's quite possible that in one of the detox program, the limb cleaning method is also included for the abhyasis. That's quite possible. I think it's probably there in one of the detox methods.
Yes, brother.
So there's a simple heartfulness practices book, no? So if you just look at the detox there are quite a few. The limb cleaning method is included in one of the detox. So in the limb cleaning method, what happens is the cleaning occurs through the limbs. But in the standard cleaning process, why do we clean from the back is most of the samskaras are in our chest area. So by cleaning through the back, we give a very wide area for it to be cleaned. Why don't we clean from the front? That's another question. All the major organs in the body are situated in the front. So you don't want to pass the samskaras through those organs again and again. So you don't want to do that by cleaning from the front. So in the back, not many organs are situated. And once you cross the major organs, there is only the back with the muscle and the bone. That's it. So that's the reason why you actually clean from the back. Now, nowhere else it is actually talked about. Do the samskaras actually go back from the front to the back? Now you come back to the ABCD points, which are where the samskaras are found. We look at the ABCD points from the front. We don't look at it from the back. Now, if C point is the gateway of samskara formation, it is in the front. We mark it in the front. Now, if the samskaras form, it is quite but logical to think that the samskaras, after having been formed from the front, they gradually go backwards to settle on the other points. Not only it evaporates and settles on other points, it also probably goes backwards. And since the back area is a very vast area actually, we want a vast area. That's the reason why we actually clean from the back, from almost the back at the top of the neck to the tailbone. So that entire area is actually pretty huge if you take the square surface. So most of the samskaras are in the chest region, but you are giving yourself a very vast area through which the samskaras can be thrown out. That is the reason why you clean from the back, just for the sake of that extensiveness of the surface area through which we can actually clean ourselves. Second reason is that all the organs are mostly in the front. Third reason is quite likely that the samskaras not only move upwards and deposit on other chakras, it's also quite possible that they might move backwards. These are the three reasons.
Thank you.
Lastly, why do we do point B cleaning from the front? That's another thing, right? So the answer to that question is the timing actually matters. We don't do point B cleaning in the evening. We only do point B cleaning in the morning through the front. The simple reason is the thoughts relating to sexuality or sensuality is a lot more. Hormonally, it gets active during the early morning stage. So when it gets activated in the early morning stage, it's quite possible that the point B will be disturbed. It happens naturally in many people. So that's the reason that if we do the point B cleaning from the front, you have actually removed the only impediment that can actually have an impact on your meditation in the morning, which are these thoughts which actually get activated because of the hormonal activity in the early morning. If you remove that, then the meditation can go to deeper levels. That's the reason why we do the point B cleaning specifically from the front and in the morning before the meditation. So that's the reason why we do the point B cleaning in the morning from the front, not from the back. Because the samskaras from the point B has not yet had the time to go to the back. Suppose there has been quite a lot of other sexual thoughts or other sensual thoughts that people have had during the course of the day. You don't clean it from the back because it's now inaccessible from the front. You now clean that from the back. You don't clean it from the front because it's already moved behind. So although it is not actually spoken about very widely, it is quite possible that the samskaras move in the backward direction during the course of the day. Like the energy, you remember the energy? The energy is actually going out to the back in the evening. So that's why we do the cleaning in the morning. The energy is actually flowing into the system during the morning. That's why we actually do the meditation in the morning. Okay. So any other question? Because these are some questions that you might ask. This will not be asked in the your examination. Why do we do the point B cleaning from the front? I don't think they're going to ask that question to you. But they will expect that you have to write that you do the point B cleaning in the morning for about 3 to 5 minutes from the front of the chest. At least that much they'll expect you. But they'll not expect why, because it's not something extensively spoken about. I've given you possible reasons, but they are not present in the books. This is based on whatever we have understood of the system till now. Okay? Any question? Everyone is quiet because Sunday you are taking rest. Shall we continue then to prayer?
Yes, brother.
Okay.
Whether other type of cleanings method can be asked, or only let's say B point and evening, or there is some, let's say you are sitting on the in the sea and the cleaning is happening. So other type of cleaning methods can be asked.
Very, very rarely. Generally, they might ask about ocean of bliss method. They might ask point B cleaning.
Mhm.
They might ask the normal cleaning. They might also ask about emergency cleaning. We just now read about it.
Yeah, that is there.
Four types they
Yeah,
might ask.
that is there.
They're unlikely that they are going to ask you for specific points, point or sub point cleaning. That's very unlikely,
Okay.
except for D point.
Okay.
There is nothing called as D point cleaning. So this is something that people have gotten into. There's nothing called as D point cleaning. And even the C point cleaning can actually be accomplished not directly, just by doing our normal cleaning, the C point automatically gets cleaned. So we don't do specific C point cleaning. D point cannot be cleaned either by master or anybody. D point can only get cleaned by the repentance of the Abhyasi, not by any other cleaning method. So the method of removing the samskaras from the D point is repentance and prayer. Repentful prayer, where you ask for forgiveness for whatever has happened, intentionally or unintentionally. Only that can remove the samskara from the D point. There is nothing called as a D point cleaning. Okay, that just made it clear quite a few times. Still, there are many groups which are actually doing that D point cleaning. Okay, I know of many groups where they are doing the D point cleaning, but that's a wrong practice. Okay, shall we continue?
Thank you, brother.
Yes, brother.
So, prayer. The third main practice of heartfulness is the specific prayer that we offer twice a day. However, we can also offer our own prayers at any time according to our own heart's inspirations. Prayer is spirituality. Spirituality is beating heart. So please underline this. This might come as a question for you. Prayer is spirituality's beating heart. Amid so many spiritual ways, prayer represents a commonality. Although its practice and purpose may differ, take different forms, prayer remains an essential way to connect with something higher than ourselves. So it's a connecting link between ourselves and something higher. If we approach prayer with just the right attitude, it transcends itself and becomes a way of being, a permanent, powerful state called as prayerful states. We move from prayer to prayerful state. It becomes a way of being. While walking with Daji in the woods, I asked a question, what is prayer? Daji said it's an inner cry of the heart. The heart's feeling cannot be manipulated by the logical mind. Generally, we pray when we lack something. To pray under those circumstances when we can bear no more is natural. But when we are happy and overjoyed, that feeling also becomes a prayer if we connect ourselves to God at that moment and express gratitude. In that situation, you are not asking, you are only sharing your joy as you would share your sorrow with an inner cry. But in many cases, prayer is just asking, I said, this is due to our fears and desires, said Daji. Because of our fears, we seek divine protection, and because of our desires, we seek divine provider. This gives rise to conception of a God who fulfills both of these functions. Viewing God as our protector and provider, we pray accordingly. O Lord, please protect him from illness. O God, dear, bless me with a job. Thus, each person views God according to the particular kind of help that they need. For example, a weak person sees God as a giver of strength, but a sick person sees God as a giver of health. But God is none of this. These conceptions are mere projections of our own. This is one of the reasons why Lord Buddha said, never spoke about God. His idea was that if you actually cut fear and desire, then all our fantastic ideas above God will disappear in one stroke. He was correct in his view. Until that happens, our ideas of God are mere fancies. Then what is God? I asked. Daji laughed and said, somebody once came to Babuji with a question. Can you show me God? What was Babuji's reply? Supposing I showed him to you, how would you know that it was God? In other words, how would you recognize him? It's like a small child who asks their mother, where did I come from? The mother only says, you will know one day. Such things are revealed at an opportune moment when we are ready. About God. So he's now answering the question about what is God. So such things will be revealed at the appropriate time when we are ready. If to perceive God we must move beyond the shackles of imagination, then isn't using the masculine gender to refer to God as a limitation as well? It's a term which everyone is familiar, said Daji. It is not a description of God. God is beyond description. Neither masculine nor feminine, nor with any name, form, or attribute. Really, it is impossible to speak about God without telling a lie. So please underline this. It is impossible to speak about God without telling a lie. After we had walked a little further, he said, I will tell you a story that Babuji often narrated. Daji proceeded to tell the tale of an ascetic monk who went to seek alms from a king. Arriving at the king's palace, the ascetic was informed that the king was occupied in prayer. However, since the ascetic was a holy man, he would be allowed to sit with the king as he prayed. The ascetic was led to the prayer room. Noticing the arrival of the holy man, the king turned to the ascetic and welcomed him, but asked for his patience since he has not yet completed his prayers. The ascetic sat with him, quietly observing. O Lord, prayed the king, please grant me victory over my enemies. Grant me more territories. Make my kingdom wealthy and make me a great king. The king continued in this manner for a few minutes, when all of a sudden the ascetic stood up and started making his way to the door. Wait, said the king. You have only just arrived. Why do you now take leave? Your Highness, said the ascetic to the king, I had come to beg alms from you, but now I see that you are a beggar, just as I am. So I will go and beg from the one from whom you are begging. So to grovel on our knees seeking blessings and benefits is a somewhat crass affair, said Daji. We can equate praying for personal enrichment to a situation in which a person marries for money. The relationship is cheapened. So when we ask something of God, we actually cheapen our relationship with God. It matters little whether the benefits we seek are material or spiritual in nature. In both cases, such an approach would be against the heart's etiquette. In other words, you cannot sit for meditation asking the master to give this condition or that condition. That is also equally bad. Like materially, you can ask for this or that. Spiritually, also, you cannot ask for this or that condition. So please remember that. That is against heart's etiquette. For example, some people approach the ultimate for fear of being condemned to hell. Others approach him out of temptation for a heavenly abode. But to seek any return on love is sacrilege. In doing so, we damage our relationship with the Maker. At the best, it becomes like a business relationship. At best, it is bribery. It becomes like a transactional relationship. That is why the notion of love for love's sake has been so highly extolled. A true lover of the Lord has no ulterior motives. They care nothing for the heaven or the hell, for blessings or spiritual advancement. They are content with love. Do not ask for mere gifts when you can have the giver itself. Only love can make this possible. So if you are going to ask for God, ask for Him only. Don't ask anything else from God. You just say, I want you. That's it. Suppose, for instance, that you give a gift to someone you love. You think and think about what you should suit them best, You buy it and lovingly wrap it. However, when presenting it to your loved ones, that person snatches it out of your hands, rips off the paper, and rushes away with it, all without any acknowledgement. How do you think that you will make you feel? They accepted your gift while ignoring the giver. They accepted the gift while ignoring the giver. Well, if you are really love that person, you won't mind it at all. However, they have missed the point of your gift. To give is an act of love, and as such, its purpose is to bring the giver and the receiver together. A blessing has no meaning if it doesn't lead to a state of intimacy with the giver. As another example, take the case of a person who endears himself to a rich relative in order to become their heir. He may get the inheritance, but he also loses a lot in the process. The sanctity of the relationship is ruined. If you truly seek the giver, then forget about gifts, forget about blessings, forget about spiritual attainment. They will come in their own way. They should not preoccupy us. Anyway, when he is in your heart, for what could you possibly want? That is why some people pray only for him. So you don't want anything, you just want only him. What makes him respond to such a noble prayer? I asked. What makes him offer himself to us? I asked. He is always offering himself. Daji said. It is his nature to do so. At the same time, we observe that even though his blessings, his transmission, and his grace is always available, there is a big difference between the drizzle and a torrential downpour. So the transmission and grace is always available, but the difference is in the drizzle versus a torrential downpour. Then what is it that allows him to pour himself into us rather than to bless us in drops or trickles? I asked. Babuji quoted one poem. O thou thirsty for the divine intoxication, empty thy heart for the purpose, for the head of the bottle of wine boils down only over an empty cup. So we must empty in order to be filled. That is in other words, Daji uses the word, we must make us ourselves deserving. Either we must make us empty or we must make ourselves deserving. Yes, said Daji. When our hearts are already filled, what space is there for anything else? Rather, we must create a vacuum in our heart. A vacuum attracts. You know how man is created. So by prayer, we actually vacuumize ourselves. It comes when there is a low atmospheric pressure. You know how rain is created? It comes when there is a low atmospheric pressure, I said. Yes, it creates a vacuum, and when there is a vacuum, the surrounding air gets sucked in and it rises. Condensation forms and then the rain falls. So if you seek a divine downpour, you must create a low pressure system in your own heart. This means that your heart must be empty, divested of all desires of gifts, blessings, and attributes. Then an inner vacuum is created. This automatically attracts the divine downpour that you seek. And when the vacuum in your heart is total, the ultimate takes up residence there. He cannot avoid it. So once we make ourselves deserving by creating that vacuum, God is helpless. He has to come in full force. But the vacuum need not attract only good things, I said. Daji laughed. True, he said. If the heart even has one little desire, the vacuum can be in trouble. The heart may be infinite, but the presence of a single desire can infinitely fill that space. In that case, the heart seeks its fulfillment in the mundane. Immediately, the world rushes in and the vacuum is spoiled. A little carelessness and one is sure to pay the price. To have a vacuum in the heart is good, but only if the heart is oriented towards the higher. So please underline. To have a vacuum is good, but only when the heart is oriented towards the higher or God. So when you say inner vacuum, you mean a desireless state? It's more than that. Daji said, it's a total lack of oneself. You see, Plato said, know thyself, but Babuji had a different idea. He said, forget thyself. After all, Lord Christ said that it's simple and the meek. It is the simple and the meek who reach heaven. Normally, we take this to mean that they reach heaven after death. But the fact is that into such hearts that are simple and innocent and egoless, heaven descends automatically. Wherever such individuals go, they create a heavens around themselves. But when the heart is already perfectly content, what further contentment could a heaven bring? In yogic terminology, the state of perfect contentment is called as upariti. So the state of perfect contentment is upariti. In upariti, we desire nothing in this world, nor do we wish for anything in the next. You see, we usually understand contentment as the satisfaction of a desire. For instance, if you eat a 5 course meal, could you want anything more? You are filled up. However, that is not uparati because tomorrow you will be hungry again. Rather, true contentment is to have no desires to fulfill. So this might be a question. What is true contentment? True contentment is having no desires to fulfill. You become free from them. Previously, you were their slave. You worked continuously for their fulfillment. Now you are free. So this also tells us what the opposite of contentment is. As I said, to be tormented by desires. And it is according to these desires that most of us pray. Daji said, like the king from the Babuji story, and the desires that we aim to fulfill tend to be our 4 specific varieties. What are the varieties of desires that we are trying to fulfill? Artha, Kama, Dharma, Moksha. In the yogic tradition, these 4 aims are called as Artha, Kama, Dharma, and Moksha. These aims are also associated with points ABCD, which we spoke about previously in the context of cleaning impressions. First, let us speak about Artha, which is the desire for material fulfillment. This is a natural urge, covering our most basic needs, the food, clothing, and shelter. But it can also manifest as a tendency to accumulate more and more. We buy clothes, houses, cars, electronics, you name it. Now, whether we are preoccupied with the latest smartphone or we are worried about paying the bills, it creates a samskaric tendencies that ripple to point A. So samskaric vibrations are created and that ripples to point A. But with meditation, our external material focus gets diverted inwards, not completely, but to the necessary extent. As a result, we no longer feel the need to seek contentment outside ourselves. We have found it within. Now we cannot worry so much about the problems either. Our perspective widens, you see. We don't worry about our problems. So our prayers no longer reflect that outward tendency. Right, said Daji. Meditation transforms us totally. The transformation manifests in many ways. The next kind of desire is to have sexual satisfaction, which is known as kama. The desire for kama forms impression that settle at point B, creating passion. In just about every religion, there seems to be a tradition of celibacy. I said, should we avoid satisfying kama-based desires? Do you advocate that people reserve sex for procreation, for instance? I will share one incident with you, said Daji. Once when I was traveling in North India, an old man came to see me with a burning question. Why is it that every time I've had sex, I felt guilty afterwards? He said, precisely because you only satisfy yourself and have never once thought about the other. I said, you see, guilt comes only when we have been selfish. It does not matter what that selfishness is about. It could be sex, it could be anything else. When you take New York City subway, for example, and rush ahead of an elderly man to take a seat, could you possibly feel good about it? Whenever self is predominant, you feel guilty. But when the opposite is the case, when your attitude is altruistic, you find a mystical joy bubbling in your heart. Altruism is natural. When the dog barks to warn the sheep against the wolf, it is not an act of is it not an act of altruism? To take advantage of others, to turn another person into an object for the sake of one's own pleasure produces guilt. Compare this situation, if you will, to a devotee who lovingly worships the statue of a goddess. Love can turn a mere object into a worshipable goddess. Now that is the choice. Convert an object into a goddess or convert the goddess into an object. One is selfless, other one is selfish. One is ennobling, other one leads to guilt. Do you want to know the secret of transformation? It is only by ennobling others that we ourselves become ennobled. To degrade another person is to degrade oneself. And to ennoble another person doesn't mean that you are helping them become ennobled. It means that you recognize their innate nobility and revere that. We can pray all day and night for transformation, but it will not come until we approach others with respect, dignity, and holy reverence. You said that the end result of karma-based desires is a feeling of passion. What is passion? It is to be fixated on one thing. Daji said, let us compare two words, passion and compassion. In passion, you are fixated on possessing the person who is the object of your desire. You are more concerned with your own satisfaction than with the other person's feelings. In compassion, on the other hand, you sacrifice yourself for the sake of the other. Passion leads to guilt, but in compassion, you feel ennobled. You become joyful. Do you know how to attract grace? Be joyful. This is the prescription. What can grace achieve? A single downpour of grace can accomplish what 1,000 transmission can never do, what 1,000 blessings can never achieve. So be compassionate and you will be joyful. Be joyful and grace will rain down upon you. So joy attracts grace. This is what Daji gave as a saying. Joy attracts grace. When you are loving, caring, and compassionate with others, you are not trying to get anything from them. You do not manipulate others. You see, the reason that most people like to receive is because they feel incomplete. But though they receive and receive, they never become complete. Wholeness only comes by giving, and the only real gift is of one's own self. So give up yourself. Then you will find that you are receiving much more than what you could possibly give. How to give all this away? You will wonder. You cannot. You can only continue to give. However, generosity of the heart does not only mean giving. It's not only about helping others. Real generosity is to accept others' opinions and differences without being vengeful feelings. Now, this brings us to Dharma. So, real generosity of the heart is to accept people's opinion and differences without any vengeful feelings. That might be a question for you in the exam. This brings us to Dharma. So, we finished Artha, then Kama, now Dharma, which is the next category of desire. Actually, I do not feel that Dharma should have any connection with desire. Dharma's literal meaning is that which upholds. That which upholds what? That which upholds righteousness. And we are the ones who must uphold it. To wish for Dharma is weakness. To pray for Dharma is like praying that you don't rob someone's house. It is easy. Just don't do it. If you want Dharma in your life, if you want truth and goodness and love, you must be the first one to uphold it. If not you, who else will then? So the whole context of Dharma is that you need to learn to uphold Dharma, not just wish for it or pray for it. If not you, who else then? So there is no use wishing for Dharma, there is no use waiting for Dharma, there is no use praying for Dharma. You have to be its embodiment. That is Dharma's diktat. Love all and hurt none. It is also the heart's very nature. You see, we have to cultivate a heart-based understanding of Dharma. Too often our sense of Dharma is rooted in our ideologies. The heart's nature is universal, but ideologies are limited. They are the results of our cultures, religions, and many other things. These varying ideologies give rise to differences, dislike, and even hatred. Such impressions take hold in point C, and where they petrify into prejudice, which Babuji described as the very enemy of spirituality. So differences in the Dharma's interpretation gives rise to a lot of other difficulties, which creates impression in point A, and then that gives rise to prejudice. So real Dharma is love all and hurt none. In the Indian tradition, divine personalities known as avatars are thought to descend in order to restore Dharma in times of intense degradation. Should such a thing really be necessary? Upholding all Dharma is always something that we would rather thrust into someone else's shoulder. If we had done our duty to uphold it on our own, without expecting the Lord to descend, we would have saved him a lot of trouble. So if we actually uphold the Dharma, there is no need for the Lord to descend here. Now when we don't uphold Dharma, It is not as if we are punished. Rather, we punish ourselves. We bear the burden of guilt, and guilt has a special location in the human frame, and that is through point D, where it weighs us down. Our hearts close and our spiritual expansion is arrested. So we must avoid doing anything that will make us feel guilty. There is no external moral authority. The consciousness is the only real judge, but the conscience is also stricter than any external judge, and it has the power to punish us far more severely. So, what is the real judge? The conscience is the only real judge. Moksha is the next category of desire for which people strive and pray. In India's religious tradition, moksha generally refers to the state of liberation from the cycle of death and rebirth, and it is often hailed as the highest goal of life. In fact, moksha is a comparatively minor achievement. There is much more beyond it. Compare this wish for moksha, an emancipated existence in the realm of a liberated soul, to the wish of financially being independent, a carefree worldly existence. Are the two not similar? Are the two wishes so different from one another? In both cases, you seek freedom. Freedom that comes with a change in your circumstances. So whether you want more materiality here, you want freedom. Whether you want to go to the other world, you want freedom. So the desire for material wealth and the desire for spiritual liberation are similar. I asked. They both create vibrations at point A. Daji said. Thus, a desire for liberation is counterproductive. It weighs us down rather than lightening our heavy load. The desire for moksha represents an escapist urge based upon our negative experiences with the world. For instance, if you eat at a restaurant and the food upsets your stomach, you will probably never go to there again. Similarly, when you get fed up with the world, we start to become averse to it. Then you are like a prisoner who wants to break free from this cell. It is not a positive aspiration. You also pray for moksha because we think that the liberated state will free us from our slavery to the other three categories of desire. It doesn't. So please underline this. The state of liberation does not free us from the other three categories of desires. There are many persons amongst us who are already qualified for liberation, yet they still hanker up after artha, kama, and dharma. They also pray for them. Wouldn't it be better to pray for contentment? But if you meditate, why would you need to pray for contentment? It comes by itself. And when you are content, when you are already a saint and have no desire for either dharma, artha, kama, and moksha, then what will you pray for? Daji paused. Whereas you used to pray for yourself, you now start to pray for others. Of course, this does not mean that you should wait till you become a saint. Even now, you should pray for others. It is not as if prayer can be diluted with the addition of more and more beneficiaries. Rather than, if you pray for more and more people, it will become a big wave. On the other hand, he said, the notion that you can include others in a selfish prayer is contradictory. Suppose there is a flood in your area. Your heart says, please God, keep my house from flooding. But while praying, you also amend the sentiment and say, please God, keep my neighborhood also from flooding. Now you are confusing God. Your words say one thing, but your heart is telling a different story. Is it possible to make up for a selfish favor by including your neighbors into it? I don't think so. The wrong key can never open the right door. Altruism cannot be an afterthought. It should be your original intention. Altruism can never be an afterthought. It should be your original intention. In prayer, our intentions speak much louder than our words. It is your duty to pray for others, no doubt, but without any love, duty is always a burden. Your friends ask you for a favor, and though you say yes, you curse him under your breath. Let's take another example. When you dislike your work, it feels like slave labor and you are resentful. Why must I have such a hard job? You fume. On the other hand, when you love what you are doing, it doesn't feel like work at all. In fact, you may be working very hard, but it doesn't feel that way. Hours may pass, but you don't notice the passage of time. When love is present, the idea of duty vanishes and the idea of work vanishes. When we love, we fulfill our duties in the most natural way without even feeling their burden. Duty without love makes us slaves, but love frees us. It is the secret to effortless action. It is the foundation not only for prayer but also of all our acts. How do we convert our self-centered intentions into selfless intentions? I asked. Become selfless. You see, when the heart is closed, you love only yourself, and your actions are self-serving. When your heart starts to open up, you start thinking of your nearest and the dearest ones, and as your heart continues to open, the circumference of your love expands proportionately. When your heart is infinitely open, when it has no doors or no walls, your love flows throughout the infinite universe. Thus, you start to feel that the universe belongs to you, but also that you belong to it. Instead of always thinking of I, you start thinking of we. Now, this happens when you come to the sixth point, the Brahmanda Mandal. So, let us renounce our selfish prayer for once for all. In fact, rather than praying for oneself and then including others as an afterthought, why not reverse the equation? Let your real intention be for others and include yourself as a mere afterthought. However, you will soon find that you do not enjoy including yourself even after as an afterthought. The remembrance of self is always deflects the prayer, you see. The whole thing just collapses. When you have faith, why do you need to remind God of your troubles? And if you don't have the faith, then why pray at all? Acceptance is the noblest path. You know, both of my gurus were often ill. I think that with their immense capacity, they could have easily cured themselves in an instant. However, their spiritual dimension did not allow them for such things. Instead, they preferred to accept the situation as it was with cheer and gratitude. Then, with a sparkle in his eyes, he said, that does not mean that you should accept your own imperfections. A minute ago, you were speaking about open heart. But can you now tell us what you really mean? I asked. Think of a closed heart, then you will understand. All right, I take your point, but I would still like you to explain a little bit, if you don't mind. I'll tell you a story. Every morning, as the sun got ready to rise, his personal assistant would come and, along with his coffee, he would present the sun with a list of the names of those people whom the sun should not forget to shine upon. Sit, sir, this man in Argentina is very much in need of your warmth. Make sure that you remember him to shine on him. Sir, this little girl in China is also so delightful. Make sure that you remember her too. One day, after a long day of shining, the sun was about to set when his assistant ran up to him. Sir, you cannot set now. You have not completed your work for the day. What do you mean? Asked the sun. I shone all day long, just as I do every day. Now I'm tired and I want to take rest. Do you remember that man in Argentina I mentioned this morning? Said the sun's assistant. Yes, of course I remember, said the sun. But he remained in the dark all day long. You did not shine on him as you promised, said the assistant. The sun ruminated for a moment and said, my dear, it is my nature to shine for one and all, and I have done so. Tell me, what can I do if this man shuts himself indoors all day long with the curtains drawn? An open heart is like that of a sun that shines for one and all. It can do nothing but radiate that love. From the open heart, love flows indiscriminately. However, we cannot really say that the heart loves. Rather, an open heart is love itself. And anyone who steps into the race feels that they are being loved. What is a closed heart? It's like a man who shut himself indoor all day long. An open heart is a giving heart, but it is also a receiving heart as well. In that sense, the heart is open. Heart that is open is a heart that is humble. So it receives and it takes without any barriers of ego. That is why it is called as a humble heart. I don't know, I said. Any egoistic can give, but it takes a humble person to receive. Daji said, pulling a coin from his pocket, he handed it to me. As he said this, so he said, do you see the position of your hand? It was open and the palm was facing upwards. We associate this pose with asking, he said. Prayer is to ask for higher help. Whether you ask for yourself or for others, asking is always requires humility, which is what allows us to pray in the first place. If you're not humble, you cannot pray. If you're arrogant and egoistic, you cannot pray. Conversely, if we were to think of ourselves as the giver, as the infinite source, then nobody in the world could help me. Even God could not help me. I must have the humility to realize that no matter what I may give to others, none of it has originated from me. Even if I give someone $1, it might have received it from somewhere. No? Can I keep the coin? I asked. Daji chuckled. You are a joker, he said. Giving the coin back, I said, okay, this is for the wisdom. Oh, it's worth so little, he bantered. Well, anyway, I don't charge anything, so you can keep it. In that case, I'll ask you another question, I said. How do we know the best thing to pray for in any given situation? This is a question that the intellect only can ask, he replied, and unfortunately, there is no answer which can satisfy. Prayer emerges automatically from a heart that loves. So only a loving heart can answer this question. The rational mind can never answer this question. A praying heart, prayer emerges from the heart that loves. And only the loving heart can answer this question. So when there is love, you know automatically what you want to pray for. You must have heard this famous Chinese folklore about the farmer and his neighbor, Daji said. I had not and asked him to relate the story. Long ago, there was a very wise farmer, he began. One day, his horse ran away. When his neighbor offered his condolences, the farmer simply said, who knows what is good, what is bad? The next day, the hart returned along with an entire herd of wild horses. This time, the neighbor congratulated the farmer, but again the farmer replied, who knows what is good, what is bad? The farmer's son tried to tame one of the wild horses. It threw him, and the farmer's son broke his leg. The neighbor again offered his condolences. Again, the farmer replied, who knows what is good or what is bad? Soon afterwards, a war broke out with the neighboring territory. Some military officers came to draft the farmer's son into the fight. But upon their arrival, they found him incapacitated with his broken leg. In the ensuing war, many young people from the farmer's village were killed, but the farmer's son survived because of his broken leg. Now imagine if the farmer had prayed for his son to be protected from being injured by the wild horses. If that prayer had been answered, he would have become casualty of war. We never know what turns out to be best or what for worst. We could only know if we had already knew the outcome. But in that case, why would we need to pray at all? If you know the outcome, why do you need to pray? So during periods of armed conflict, everyone pays. But if everyone is praying for victory, to whom will God respond? The war itself hurts him. After all, his children are fighting. It is foolishness that makes us pray for such things. Daji shook his head sadly and said, it only shows how little we know of God. Even our altruistic prayers can go wrong. He continued. Suppose, for example, you decide to pray for a person's fear to be removed. It's a noble thing, right? Well, it certainly looked good on the surface, but it may be that some amount of fear is necessary in that particular case. What would happen if God were to remove bestow fearlessness upon a bandit or limitless courage upon a corrupt official in a high position? They would only become more brazen, no? In such cases, fearlessness would be counterproductive. My father used to say that if you were to bestow wealth upon a person who has no character, who lacks moral compass, the wealth will only destroy him. There are many examples of this in our society where those born into extreme privilege find themselves on life's difficult roads. We can never know the direction in which such things will take our near and dear ones. So how do we know what to pray for them? I asked. When your heart is sensitized, it becomes responsive to the true needs of the others. Then your prayer will always be in natural accordance with that need. So when the heart becomes sensitive, we become more knower of the need of the other, the true needs of the other. When we know the true needs of the other, the prayers will always be in relation to the true needs. All right. Then how do we sensitize your heart? I pressed. Do you really want to? He said. When you already have so much pains and troubles on your own, Do you really want to share the pains and troubles of others? The first prerequisite for sensitivity is the willingness to do it. You need to be sensitive for the difficulties of others. The knowledge of another person's sufferings cannot rise to your awareness until you are able to tolerate that suffering. Secondly, what is the point of you being aware of the plight of others? Suppose that someone hacks into your bank account. Now they are aware of your financial situation, but do you really think that they have your best interest at heart? Of course not, I said. There is no good reason for me to know about your finances unless my intent is to help you, right? Similarly, there is no need to become sensitive to others until they are going to use that sensitivity for their betterment. Only love can make this possible, and when that love is there, tolerance will also be present. With these two qualities, your heart will now intuit your prayers in the most natural way. It is when we lack these qualities that we become confused about what we should pray for. So, what we should have is love and tolerance. If you have this virtue, then intuitively we become know what prayer should we pray for others for. However, if you have the ability to physically help someone, don't be content to just sit back and pray. Instead, do something. Lend a helping hand. Charity used to say, prayer is the first means of the weak and the last means of the strong. If you can do nothing, then by all means pray. But if you can feed someone, do it. If you can house someone, do it. It is your human obligation to try to solve the circumstances before you pray for them. Of course, if you do not have enough to feed your own family, then it cannot be correct to feed someone else's family. You must always fulfill your own duties first. This reminds me of the proverb, charity begins at home. I said, yes, said Daji. It is said that we cannot always do very much to alleviate suffering. Although we may want to help everybody in the world, we simply do not have the personal resources to do so. The least you can do so for a suffering person is to spend time with him. Commiserate with him, sit next to him. You may say nothing, you may say do nothing. You are simply there. Your very presence is impactful, you see. Because of it, your friend perceives that now my help is here, and this gives him strength. So in other words, even if you don't know what to pray, just by your mere presence, they will feel strengthened. Okay, I'll just stop here, pause for a few minutes. Any questions, we'll take it. Again, lot of questions come from prayer. So please be well versed with this particular chapter.
In this chapter, most of the prayer indirectly deals with the universal man that what we have understood. Everything is not for me, not for us. It is for every indirectly. It is directly itself. Most of the points, it is for
Exactly.
universal.
Exactly.
What we have understood.
So prayer gradually should take your consciousness to universality.
Universal. Yeah.
So you should gradually go towards universal consciousness.
So we can understand one prayer is for our evolution, and here what they are telling is for universal, where we are included in that.
Exactly. In fact, you can actually use the same principle for meditation also.
Yeah.
Never think that only you are meditating. Think that the entire universe is meditating and you are also part of it. That will change the way that you meditate. Think that the entire universe is meditating and you are also part of it. That will actually take you towards universal consciousness faster than saying that I am meditating, let my consciousness become universal. The emphasis is on me becoming universal. There it is on the universal and me being a part of the universal. See the difference between the two? So whenever you sit for meditation, have the thought that the entire universe is meditating along with you. That will help you to grow towards universal consciousness much faster. If we sit for meditation with the thought that I need to make progress, I need to get different conditions, then we are again, although we are doing a spiritual activity, we are still being selfish. Okay? Datesh?
It is almost like creating a win-win situation, right,
Exactly.
brother?
Exactly. So in spirituality, there is no question of any loss. If spirituality is understood in the right perspective, it's a win-win for everyone involved. Nobody loses. It's a very strange thing. There is nobody who is losing, but everyone is winning. That is only possible in spirituality. In every other material field, for every loss there is somebody who's gaining. But in spirituality, it's like a win-win situation for both all of us. That is what happens.
This exactly connect with the maxim 2, 100%. 1:1.
Exactly.
Exact.
Good. Good that you remember that the maxim is about prayer. Maxim 2 is about prayer.
For the spiritual elevation by meditation with love.
Correct.
Yes, sir.
Any other thoughts or any other responses before we move to the next part? So shall we continue for another 5-10 minutes? And then we can wind it up for today. Tomorrow evening, as usual, 6:30 we'll meet. Connecting through prayer. What is the best way to prayer? I asked. Between the singer who hits every note and the singer who means every note, we prefer the latter, don't we? So, a singer who hits every note versus a singer who means every note. And when an artist has moved you, you really easily forgive their wrong note or their unpolished brushstroke, he said. Only sincerity can touch the human heart. If a person were to say, I love you in angry tone, would we feel unmoved? In prayer too, it is the feeling and sincerity that counts. There's a nice story that comes to mind. An ordinary cowherd was looking for his cows and buffaloes. Every night, he prayed to the Lord and said, if you come to join me, I'll protect you from the heat of letting you sit in the shade of my favorite tree. I'll give you bath and whatever you like, I'll scratch your back. Whenever you like, I'll scratch your back. This prayer was heard all over again and again by a Brahmin, a priest, who lived next door to the farmer. One day the Brahmin said, what sort of prayer is this? You are going to give a bath to God? You are going to scratch his back? This is nonsense. So the farmer said humbly, please teach me. The Brahmin agreed to teach him some Sanskrit shlokas and verses. The next day the farmer forgot the words. Please teach me again, he said. I forgot what you taught me. The Brahmin again taught him, but the farmer forgot again. This process repeated itself few times, and in the end, farmer got confused and disheartened. Then God came to the Brahmin in his dream one night and said, look, you have really spoiled this fellow's life. His prayer was the best prayer. He had expressed himself, you see. That is what I am going to do with you. This is what I am going to do with you. It is all that I know. A Sanskrit saying, you forget. You don't even understand the meaning of it. It's not that we are decrying the value of ancient slokas, they are wonderful. But you have to understand them. A prayer has to have meaning to you. Otherwise, it is just like a parrot, repeating certain things. The prayer should be backed by sincerity and love, and it should have a meaning. Words are not feelings, they only are depictions of feelings. A prayer offered by rote is only a husk of feeling. As such, it remains hollow. An efficacious person is one in which the words reverberate with the heart's feelings. An efficacious prayer is one in which the words reverberate with the heart's feelings. Yet, when the heart reverberates with feeling, is there any need for words at all? It's only through silence that we commence with the inner being, commune with the inner being. In such silence, even our thoughts are mute. So we remain in silence in prayer. I can understand silent prayer, but a prayer without a thought, the act of prayer must evolve into a prayerful state, inner state, said Daji. For instance, have you observed the interactions of a couple who have married for decades? A single glance speaks volumes, and hardly any words are need to be spoken. Over the years, they have transcended the need for communication and entered into a state of communion with one another. The less the two people understand of one another, the more they need to communicate. When a couple is newly married, a lot of communication is required. The more they understand of one another, the subtler their communication becomes, and when they know each other deeply, communication becomes redundant. Similarly, in our attempt to reconnect with our origin, we begin with formal prayer. Prayer is the first step. It must gradually mature into prayerfulness. For example, it is common to pray before eating. But if after the prayer is completed, you attack your food like a wolf, what happens to the prayerful mood that you have just created? Without a prayerful inner state, prayer is only an artifice. It is absurd. Often we teach children to write by giving them stencils of the letters of the alphabets. By tracing the letters, they learn how to write on their own. Similarly, formal prayer must evolve into prayerfulness. Therefore, thereafter, formal prayer becomes unnecessary and redundant. If you do not graduate into prayerfulness, we are like adults who still rely upon stencils to write the alphabets. This inner state is unique, the prayerful state. It has no external face or any external principles to be followed, remaining rituals. The moment you make prayer a ritual, it loses its importance. Prayerful state is not a ritual, but the prayer is a ritual. However, prayerfulness is just another beginning. Its purpose is to take us beyond that level to another level. What lies beyond prayerfulness? Oneness, said Daji. Duality is intrinsic to prayer. In prayer, there are always two: a person who is in need and the person who is needed, whose help is needed. I offer prayer, and the great being is supposed to listen to me and answer my prayers. Without this duality, who would offer prayer and who would receive it? The distinction between the divine presence and me still remains. They're still two. There's still a relationship. Through meditation, on the other hand, we progressively enter into a state of oneness with the divine presence within. We transcend the relationship. With prayer alone, the possibility of union is rather far-fetched. We remain what we are, and the source remains what it is. Then, what role does prayer have to play? I asked. It helps us to become heartfully cognizant of that divine presence principle with which we intend to merge, said Daji. Prayer should be offered in such a way that it transforms into meditation. Truly, it is an eruption of the heart, highlighting the pang of separation from the beloved. I can bear this no more. It says, I am reminded of one couplet from my childhood. Oh Lord, please visit my but at least once, little hut at least once. I will treat you so nicely, so lovingly that you will never forget. You will forget to your heavenly abode. Prayer is in a way an inner cry where pearls of tears flows down the face and beautifies the heart's inner complexities. This pang of the heart serves to keep us glued to the cherished object, and essentially like a river flowing into the sea, prayerfulness resolves in meditative togetherness with the source. So now the heartfulness prayer. So my suggestion is let us leave it here. We can continue tomorrow evening from this particular page. The heartfulness prayer. Okay. So we can take any questions now. If at all any questions or thoughts or any observations you can make. Yogita, DP is like showing Vishwarupa Darshan of a football player.
That's my son's profile, brother. He
Yeah.
keeps changing.
I know
So
that. So that is like a Vishwarupa darshan of Krishna. This is like a Vishwarupa darshan of a football player.
Brother, here, Darji said, duality is intrinsic to prayer. That
Because you are praying to somebody. You require
okay.
something, that person is the giver. You are the one who requires that gift. So you pray. So the duality is still there. Somebody is praying and somebody is answering the prayer. But when the prayer gradually metamorphosizes into meditation, that is why we call our evening prayer as prayer meditation. We don't call it as prayer. It gradually metamorphosizes into meditation. What happens then? In meditation, the source and we become one. We start with prayer where there are two, gradually we merge into become one. That is what is supposed to happen with prayer meditation. And that is what we do in the night. We don't talk about it as simple prayer, we call it as a prayer meditation. Okay?
Brother, actually difference between prayer and prayer meditation.
Sorry.
Actual difference between the prayer and prayer meditation.
In prayer, the duality is consistently maintained. The duality will never become one. There will be one seeker, then there will be one giver. This is what happens in prayer. But in prayer meditation, you start with the duality. Gradually, you start meditating and become one with the source. Then the duality of the giver and the receiver does not remain. That is why our prayer is not simple prayer. It is a practice of prayer meditation. Now, this feeds into meditation now. In prayer, we actually start, after we start the prayer, we gradually meditate and become one with the source. Now, whatever you have actually achieved that oneness with the source, next day morning when you pray, when you sit for meditation, that helps you to go deeper. In other words, this prayer meditation is actually feeding into your meditation also next day. This is what happens. The thing is, our three practices actually feed into one another. It's like a cycle. So you cannot cut off any one part. Then the cycle is interrupted. Each one feeds into the other. Okay. So for example, when you do meditation in the morning, what happens? Because of the heat of the meditation, the samskaras raise up to the surface. You also create samskaras during the course of your day. Now, if that heat of that constant remembrance is maintained, the samskaras will not settle back down. Now, when you do and do your cleaning in the evening, not only the samskaras that you formed is now removed, the samskaras that rose up to the surface in the morning are also removed. So that's how the meditation feeds into the cleaning also.
Brother, I one more having a doubt. When we are going at satsang every day at morning 6 or 6:30, is it compulsory we should do our meditation before satsang?
If you are going to go for the satsang every day, not necessary. But I'll tell you why satsang meditation is necessary after satsang in general. See, in Bangalore, we only do satsang once a week or twice a week maximum, not every day. What exactly happens is, in the satsang, whatever condition is given to you in the seed form, when you do the meditation, your own individual practice, you are allowing that seed to gradually sprout into a good condition. That is what you do. Your practice actually makes the seed sprout into a good flower or good tree. Now, if you go to satsang every day, you are going to take on the seeds every day and you don't work on it. What happens is the seed remains as a seed if you don't practice. So your individual practice should be aligned with satsang. Now, whether you do satsang every day or not, that is dependent on you. Provided you are able to digest what is given to you in the satsang, then it's okay to go to satsang every day. But for normal spiritual journey, there is no need for going to satsang every day.
One more doubt, brother. Can we do cleaning after evening satsang or we should do before satsang only? Because time is not aligning.
Cleaning is always done before satsang. if you are attending the satsang.
Yeah, because now Ina's timing was changed from 5:30 to 6. And 5:30 we are facing a problem because I'm not able to do cleaning before 5:30. So I'm facing a lot of difficulty. Now that every time wavering in my mind.
See, one of the things that happens in Kanha is that there is this unconscious push towards the satsang all the time, which is not there in other places. So please remember.
Yes.
So we have to go by the heart, not by the timetable put up by the Kanha manager. We have to go by our heart.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, the reason why we do the cleaning before the satsang is that our heart should be empty to receive what is given in the satsang. Now, if the heart is not empty, you have not cleaned yourself and you feel heavy. No point in going to the satsang. You might as well do the cleaning and benefit from your own journey. In Khana, lot of people have too much of overdose of the satsang. Okay, and not many people realize the impact of that. So it's a big change. And many people become mechanical about attending the satsang every day, morning and evening. They don't align that satsang with their own individual practice so that they can evolve. No matter how many satsangs you attend, you are not going to evolve without your individual sadhana. Okay? So you need to bring all these things into harmony. Then you can evolve by having more satsangs. Okay? It's like if you have eaten, if you know how to digest this faster, then you can eat once more. You can eat 3-4 times in a day. But if you have eaten once and you have not digested it again, why will you go and eat again? Got the point? So this is one of the things. For people who stay away from Khana, it's a different situation. They have enough time to work on themselves and to digest what is given in the Bandara or in the Satsang. But for those people who actually stay in Kanha, that is a real challenge. Okay?
Okay. Now I got it clear in my mind.
Good. Seripa, any other question? 8:30 now.
Brother, so does it mean that after few years of practice regularly, a prayer becomes just like a mechanical thing because you're already
None of the practices should become mechanical. But the need for the practice should come down. Please understand this. None of the practice should ever become mechanical, whether at the start, in the middle, or in the end. But the need for the practice should gradually come down as we progress to higher and higher states. In fact, when you become prayerful, you will not even be able to say the full prayer. By the times you say, "Oh Master," you are already prayerful, so you don't need to say the prayer at all. That is what will happen. In other words, uttering the prayer becomes redundant because you are already feeling and being in the state of prayer. If you are already in the state of prayer, why will you actually utter the words? There is no need. That is what will happen.
That's what I asked, brother. Like the words I meant, the words become we will not be able to say because it feels like mechanical when you say it.
Don't use the word mechanical. The need for the prayer comes down. In fact, other thing happens is if you are meditative all the time, okay, when you try to meditate, it feels like heaviness. You are already meditative all the time. Why do you want to do extra meditation? There is no need. That's why Babaji never used to meditate. He was only meditating for 1 or 2 minutes. That's it. And Lalaji says, I knew that you are not doing it, but still I did not say because you are already established in constant remembrance. So there was no need for meditation for that. If Babuji had tried to do meditation, that would have meant more mechanical imposition of the meditation on the state of constant remembrance. So that's why he didn't do it. Okay. That's why we keep saying, refer to your heart, refer to your heart. Don't make it a compulsion to attend all satsangs. Don't make it a compulsion to do meditation every day when you are not in the right state of mind. You are having headache. One of the preceptor messaged me yesterday morning saying that I am having headache, I am not able to come to your place. Shall I sit remotely? I said, whether you are having headache, whether you come face to face or remotely, either way you are not supposed to meditate. I said, don't come for sitting also, don't do meditation also. Aram se take rest. Once you feel better, then you come for sitting. So you need to be very pragmatic. If you don't do meditation 1 or 2 days, nothing is going to happen. The sky is not going to fall. Okay. Likewise, if you don't attend 1 or 2 satsangs while staying in Kana, the sky is not going to fall. We should learn to look at our heart and see whether we are actually making the journey and evolving. So the satsang should be a supplement to our evolution. It should not become a mechanical impediment to our evolution. Got the point? If you attend satsang mechanically, it will become an impediment for our evolution rather than an aid for our evolution. Okay? Sumati sister, go ahead.
Brother, during meditation, by the end of doing point B cleaning, it just we go very deep. Sometimes I go very deep, so sometimes I miss the prayer also.
That's all right.
So
That's all right.
okay.
If you suddenly drift into meditation automatically, you remember what is the 2 things that we give as a suggestion in point B cleaning? That the samskaras are going out from the front to point B for about 3 to 5 minutes. And the second suggestion that you give is the view of the soul is now coming into visibility. That is what you say. The second point. Now, when the soul is actually coming into visibility, automatically you will drift into meditation. Whether you say the prayer, whether you actually utter the suggestion that we are supposed to say before the start of the meditation, all these things sometimes we tend to overlook. Not to worry about it. It's all right.
Okay.
Don't say after 15 minutes you suddenly realized, oh, I didn't say the prayer today. Now let me go back and say the prayer and then come back again. Don't do that.
Yes.
Not necessary to do it.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all right.
Okay.
That's a good thing. It's a good state. It just indicates that your heart is in a good state. But then don't do it intentionally also. Oh, my heart is in a good state. From today, I'm not going to say the prayer.
No.
That is also wrong. So when something happens naturally, allow it to happen. Don't worry too much about it. It's all right.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, brother.
Second. So shall we end the meeting now? So